Hartford. It's time for the Skinner Auto Group road trip. We stop in to Skinner Auto for this week's featured vehicle, a 2003 Chrysler Sebring LX. This exceptionally clean ivory four-door is great transportation for under $5,000. Just one of the many great pre-owned vehicles at Skinner Auto in Herkimer and Richfield Springs. This week, we travel southwest of Utica to the little hamlet of Knoxboro. So we first visit the Limestone Ridge Historical Society in Oriskany Falls to learn about the early days of Knoxboro. We learn that there had been some consideration of routing the railroad from Deansboro to Knoxboro. And on this particularly snowy day, driving up the 800-foot climb, we can see why they opted to run it to Oriskany Falls instead. Beautiful hand-painted signs welcome visitors from every direction. Knoxboro was once the center of trade and culture for the surrounding areas. In 1811, General J. Knox built a store at the Four Corners, and the settlement became known as Knox's Corners. The general store is probably the oldest building standing in Knoxboro. It was recently restored by local contractor and mason Mark Crane. Mark, a local history buff, told us that Mr. Knox and his wife originally lived upstairs from the store, and that he found some of the original ledgers listing the trades made between Mr. Knox and the Native Americans. Route 11, Knoxboro Road, was once a major Indian trail, used by the Oneida, Tuscarora, Brothertown, and Stockbridge Indians. Mark tells us that when the farmers plow the fields up at the crest of the hill, you can still see the dark charcoal left from the fire pits of the longhouses that once stood there. The Indian Trail was made into a highway in the early 1800s, and it was along this thoroughfare that the Knox family established their businesses. The Knox Lock Company was founded in 1861, and locks were produced here at the foundry for several years.
I've seen life from out of view bars in front of dozens more. Through those times I never felt the struggle between love and war. Touched my heart in many ways I've never felt before. So honey, reconsider this as you walk out the door. 'Cause I'll do anything for you. Yes, I do anything for you.
At one time, Knoxboro had 3 cheese factories and a creamery. The farming tradition continues today at Nanny Acres Dairy Goat Farm. Sue Collins and her family raise, breed, and sell goats and make natural goat's milk soap.
My husband had goats when he was a boy, and we decided to start it probably in around 1999. And he sent me out on my first goat venture to buy a goat. I went to buy the goat, and I bought a male goat that was neutered. And I got the goat home, and my husband said, "What do you expect us to do with this goat, Suzanne?" I said, "Well, honey, it's a pretty goat. It's gorgeous." He goes, "Yes, and it's neutered, and it's a male, so it cannot make any babies, and it's pretty much worthless." So that was my
milk either.
And no milk either. So that was my first lesson, which was very hard learned, and my mother-in-law and him remind me of it all the time. My mother-in-law also helps us out here with the craft shows and doing things. We make our soap. And we also have milk available for people who raise animals. When we make our soap, it's made with our milk, which is fresh. We milk twice a day. During the summer months when we milk, we're always freezing some so that we have some available in the winter. The soap is made with glycerin and essential oils, and we do not put any chemical bases in the soap. It's just got vitamin E in it. Goat meat is a delicacy in other countries, not so much in America, but it is becoming that way because of a lot of immigrants that are coming from other countries such as Bosnia. Also, old world Italians eat goat meat, and they eat it at Thanksgiving just as you and I might eat turkey, and it's called cabrito. And they will take a baby goat, has to be less than 3 months old, and they will stuff it with dressing just like we stuff a turkey. So while not traditional to us, it is traditional to other people.
To contact Nanny Acres Dairy Goat Farm, call 338-1781 or visit our website, mohawkvalleyliving.com. There's another goat up in the hills of Knoxboro, and this one's green. Photojournalist Steve Jacobs has traded in his city job and world news assignments for a country studio and a more creative and personal relationship with his photo subjects.
I've been in the news business for about 20 years or so, and the news business is slowing down and changing direction, and I thought I would change with it. and eventually decided to freelance and go out on my own. I got into photography just out of high school. I went to college, went to art school and did a lot of photography, took some photojournalism classes, worked for a few newspapers down around Pennsylvania and New Jersey. So I had the opportunity to travel, get some great international and New York State assignments, and I'm now in the position to move my skills into the studio. Well, here I have a little bit more control, obviously, of my assignments. I can do my advertising. I can get people to come to my studio in different ways. I'm hoping to do weddings, high school seniors, portraits, family portraits, events, sporting events, news events, things I can take a little bit of control of and be as creative as I was in the news business and bring it here to the studio. I think my style is carried over from the news business, a little bit more photojournalism, a little bit more candid, a little bit more non-traditional. I try to shoot and get candids, get moments, try to wait for things to happen, try to show personalities of people instead of just having them stay in one position. So I think that sort of comes over a little bit more artistic. And I think that the high school kids and a lot of the brides and grooms, for example, like those types of pictures.
Steve is busy getting his studio ready for his grand opening anticipated for the spring. But you can learn more about Green Goat Studio and see some of his photography from around the world at the website greengoatstudio.com. We head back to the Four Corners to the historic Knox store. Tucked beside the old store is a little building that is now home to the Knoxboro Post Office. We're greeted by friendly postmaster Nona Baker, and she tells us a little about the history of the local postal system. She also gives us directions to another historic site.
My sins all taken away, taken away.
We head south along Soulsville-Augusta Road, just under a mile and a half to the burial site of Amos Parker.
For those of you who are interested in the American Revolution, there's a bit of history right here, not too far from Knoxboro, in the town of Augusta. I'm standing in front of the cemetery that's, well, maybe a mile or so from Knoxboro, and buried here is a man by the name of Amos Parker. I'm going to tell you a tall tale, but it's true. He was the tallest man in the Army during the Revolution, well in excess of 7 feet. There are those who say he was 7'11". Not only is he known because of his height, but he also saved the life of General Lafayette. He had been under orders not to fire until given permission. Well, when he saw that the general was endangered, he fired and saved the general's life. He was court-martialed, but because of his heroic act, he was acquitted, as indeed he should have been.
How can it be one so sweet could die so young? And on Christmas Eve, well, she's gone. Yeah, she's gone. Delia's gone.
We head west of Knoxboro to Perry Shoemaker Road, to a dairy farm that has been converted into a woodworking shop. Custom Woodcraft specializes in custom cabinets. They build furniture for dining rooms, bedrooms, kitchens, and baths. This family-owned company has been in business here for 20 years.
Well, we moved up as a church group, and a number of them were looking for dairy farms, so I was just a victim of circumstances, and we have a small farmette here, but we don't farm. It's more of the woodworking that we do here. Well, it started as a hobby. I always enjoyed woodworking. Grew up on a dairy farm, and I took shop class at school and started with a project there, and it kind of grew into that, and then I started working for a cabinet maker for a number of years, and finally I started my own business, and it's something that I still enjoy doing and I'm still learning. Kitchen cabinets is our primary thing, but we do all types of furniture, anything that's made out of wood. I usually say if it's made out of wood, I can do it, and if we can buy the wood, we can make any species of wood. Most of our work within a 40-mile radius. We have done some Old Forge, Skinny Atlas, further to that as well, but most of it is we install our own product, and most of it's within 40 miles. Well, I like the smell of it, and I like to see something out of a tree getting made to a piece of furniture that we can enjoy and we can use, and and we like to make something that lasts for a long time.
I sure am glad that we came here today because I was able to pick up a Christmas present for my grandson Liam. It's this train, and there are 7 different kinds of wood on this. It's got wooden wheels, it has magnets that he can learn about, and one of the woods, interestingly enough, is called Purple Heart.
Custom Woodcraft is open Monday through Friday from 8 to 5 and Saturdays from 9 to 2. To learn more about Custom Woodcraft, visit our website, mohawkvalleyliving.com. We head home, back down the hill from Knoxboro and pass through Deansboro. We stop in to see our friends and sponsor at the Deansboro Superette. It's hard to believe it's been 4 years since we first met John, his daughter Michelle, and little granddaughter Elena, who is now 8 years old. Their store and deli is still busy with customers, stopping in for lunch, takeout, and party trays.
Back when I was younger, I remember that with my father and his friends, all of the major issues of the world were resolved at the local Superette. Well, that's still true because you can come here to Deansboro, New York, and right in the middle of the downtown area is the Superette, and this is where everybody gathers to discuss the issues of the day. And in addition to that, you can get some mighty fine food. I started with an all-American pork rib sandwich and some potato salad, followed by a Middle Eastern platter, and topped off with some pasta chaat, some real genuine Italian pasta chaat, all right here in downtown Deansboro.
We do all of our own cooking here. Okay. Most of it I learned from my mom, watching my mother and my grandmother. And we basically get the same amounts of people every day. Yeah. Most of them are local people. Some of them hear about us through the Mohawk Valley Living, and they stop to see us, so that helps. They just gather here and eat and drink and tell some stories from the old days. Yeah. Well, there really isn't any other place. Actually, there's not a lot of places around to gather at. You know, most of them are just get in and get out, buy what you want, and pay for it and get in and get out. But here it's just a little more homey, I guess. We try to treat everybody with a different way of doing things, I guess. Well, we have great subs and sandwiches. Of course, that attracts them, and then we add everything else that goes with it. We have the Middle Eastern specials, and we have a special every day. And other than that, that's probably my great personality and my daughter, Michelle.
Who's your other helper here?
That's my little granddaughter, Elena. They're a great attraction.
Traveling round